North and South Seafood and Smokehouse presents The Kelly Sheffield Show on 100.5 ESPN and the ESPN Wisconsin app. Alongside Wisconsin Badgers volleyball head coach Kelly Sheffield, here's Jon Arias.
Welcome in. It's The Kelly Sheffield Show, brought to you by North and South Seafood and Smokehouse. I'm Jon Arias, joined by Wisconsin Volleyball head coach Kelly Sheffield. Coming up on today's show, we're going to recap the 4-0 start in the Big Ten for Wisconsin Volleyball, look ahead to a top 20 matchup when they take on Penn State, top 25 matchup when the Nittany Lions and Badgers play, and then Wisconsin also plays Maryland a little bit later on. We'll maybe touch on that. And at the end of today's show, we get questions from you, the fans, for the head coach of the Badgers volleyball team. But Kelly, I think I need to start with the big storyline from the last game against Michigan on Sunday. And that was your starting setter, Charlie Feurbringer, going down in the first 9 points of the first set. How's Charlie handling things? How is the team handling things?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a freak thing. That's a lot of times that happens with injuries. It's went up there with one hand against their middle on a joust, middle with two, and it just kind of kind of a freak thing with the ankle where it kind of pops that out. So, as of this taping, we're not sure how long she's going to be out, but it's kind of, welcome to sports, right? I mean, we've got two of our opposites, one out for the year and the other one with Grace, both Graces. Hopefully we get Egan back sometime here in the next few weeks. And hopefully Charlie can make her way back. You look at some of the injuries that our football team has had to deal with this year. It's been brutal. You look at Minnesota volleyball. I think they're down their fourth starter for the season right now. So there's some luck that goes along with this of being able to have a great year, but there's also resiliency that is rewarded. And I loved how resilient we were against a very good Michigan team. I think Charlie went down 4-4 in the first set. And they built up a 4-point lead late in that first set, and we just kind of stuck with it, found a way to pull off that first set. And then, every set I felt like we got a little bit stronger and stronger, with their outside Jacobs, I think she was over 500 after the first set, and we brought her hitting percentage down to about 220. By the end of that match. And then each of our sets, we got stronger offensively. So I think we were settling in and we were just grinding.
The resiliency you just touched on there. Also, after the match, you talked about the composure. I'm sure those two kind of go hand in hand, and how impressed you were with the team's composure. Where does that composure and that resiliency, where does that come from?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, we had 5 freshmen that had a role in that match, and essentially 3 seniors, and I think that was the bulk of who was in there. I would say Miley came in and executed some really nice serves, who's a sophomore, but you need your seniors to not panic and to be strong, and I thought they did a great job with that, all 3 of them. And but it's also trusting your training and what we do every day. We try to set up some things in practice where we're not only executing techniques and systems and things like that, but we're also trying to make things really, really difficult, so that in a variety of ways, so that when they're faced with some difficulty in matches, that they feel like they can move through and work through things. I remember, I think back to 2014 when Carlini went down with the ankle, when Franti came underneath the net, and it was just next man out. Courtney Thomas did, without even blinking, I don't even think we call a timeout, and goes out there and in sets, leads us to a first set victory with Jules McCulson sliding in over the right side. It's one of the beauties of sports. And what I told Addie as I'm watching the film today is she comes in there and she gets that ace, her first ace for our 9th point, and the field house just erupts because it's the silent set. I said, you need to remember that feeling for the rest of your life. I mean, of what that moment is, because she executed a confident serve, an aggressive serve. And, in that moment, ooh, man, you get goosebumps just thinking about that moment, right?
Yeah, I just did. Well, when you went woo, and I was thinking about it, you're right. It was just such a big moment. I have questions about Addie, but you mentioned the seniors too, and kind of their leadership. And in the post-match show, Carter talked about how she reminded Addie in the moment. Carter said, okay, well, this is happening, so what can I do? And she reminded Addie in the moment, and I'll clean it up, that Addie runs a dang good offense and is a heck of a blocker. And that leadership kind of was on display too, where she's able to go to Addie and say, okay, well, listen, you've done this, you know what's going on. How much did that mean to you?
It's why she's in the position that she's in, meaning Carter, right? I think one of the things we also saw on display, we don't push people to graduate from high school early. That's just not something I believe in. But there can be, it's not for everybody, but you kind of think about had her and Madison not graduated early, right? It's she was able to be around the team in the spring. Both of them are able to be around a lot in the spring. Quest got a lot of playing time on the opposite for the first time ever in the spring. Addie is able to go through this training, and then with our scrimmage in our exhibition, her running the show then. I think yesterday would have been a whole lot more difficult for us had both of them just gotten here right before preseason. And so, they sacrifice. I'm sure they don't look at it as a sacrifice of graduating early. I think most of us are really excited to get out of high school. I'm sure they were as well to get here. But it certainly helped our program out. I would say they were able to play at a higher level up to this point than they would have otherwise, I believe.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I was going to talk about how Addie came in and in the red and white scrimmage got a lot of playing time, and then obviously got to the playing time in the exhibition against Notre Dame as well, and how that helped her. But you talk about her composure too. You talked about it in the post-match show and how she was able to lead the team. How impressive is it coming from her, considering everything? Like, she's a freshman, and yes, she had that extra playing time, but to keep the composure as a freshman in that type of situation in a Big Ten match with the silent crowd, and then you come in and you just have to execute.
Well, I mean but that's Addie to our core, she was composed. I would be more surprised if she was not composed, because that would be out of character for her. She's a very steady player. She doesn't get too high or too down. She keeps things light inside of her own head, which I think is probably pretty healthy. But there is a drive to her as well. She doesn't lack confidence in herself. She's a confident kid that believes in herself and keeps her composure. And the other thing is, you go back and you watch the film of yesterday versus the film of our scrimmage and exhibition. She's really gotten a lot better. You can tell the work that her and the other setters are putting in with Lauren, and how that has benefited, because I thought she was keeping us in rhythm, and she made some really good sets that probably would have gotten away from her a little bit more a month ago. And I thought she set a really good match.
Okay, when we come back, I want to ask you about Mimi Colyer, who seemed to do pretty much everything, or a lot of everything, for the team in the win over Michigan. Also the middle blockers, another big match for them. And we'll get your thoughts coming up on Penn State, which is right around the corner. So keep it right here. More to come with the Badgers head coach Kelly Sheffield. This is the Kelly Sheffield Show, brought to you by North and South Seafood and Smokehouse on the Wisconsin Badgers Volleyball Radio Network. And welcome back. It is the Kelly Sheffield Show, brought to you by North and South Seafood and Smokehouse. I'm Jon Arias, joined by Wisconsin head coach Kelly Sheffield. Your questions coming up in our next segment from the fans, but I wanted to once again touch on the 4-0 start. You guys beat Michigan in 3. In fact, every Big Ten match has been a 3-set victory. Had some adversity to go through in that match against Michigan, losing starting setter Charlie Feurbringer. But man, did Mimi Colyer just continue to add so much value for this team. She once again handled a big load, and that's attacking, but also her passing duties. I think she was served 29 times in that match against Michigan, the most of any Badger.
John, how many people are averaging 5.39 kills per set in the country?
Probably one.
Yeah, I mean, certainly she's top 3 in kills per set. How many outside hitters are hitting 361 outsides? I mean, that's a pretty darn good number for a middle or an opposite. How many outsides are averaging 0.71 blocks per set? I'd be surprised if you got onto a second hand there. She's been aced 4 times on the season. Is passing a 2-1 on the season. She passed a 2-1, just over a 2-1 yesterday. I mean, the year that she has put up to this point has been remarkable. Yeah, 4 reception errors, but our team has only had 20, which I don't know if there's anybody in the league that has less than 40 or 50 on their season. So our passers, and certainly it's interesting, almost nobody is serving Una. So they're either going after Mimi and trying to put a incredible amount of load on her, or they're going after our freshman Kristen Simon. And for both of them to be able to, both of them are over a 2-1, which we'll take that every day of the week. And for our team to only give up 20 points out of 39 sets has been really fantastic. But Mimi is, she's just been incredible so far. And when we played Michigan in the Michigan match, for her to be able to put up the numbers and show the strength and just, put the team on her shoulders, because she was taking about every first serve from them and then taking a lot of swings, on the third contact. It was a great match for her.
The middle blockers, you mentioned all the young players on the court. Middle blockers are some of those more established players with Carter and Allie Andrew. And I've looked at their Big Ten numbers, Kelly. 44 kills, these two combined, 44 kills, 3 hitting errors through 4 matches. That's 3.6 kills per set from the middles with a .465 hitting percentage. What can you say about just the start they've had in Big Ten play?
Yeah, Allie's hitting almost 500, over a block per set. Carter's over 400 with a block and a half per set. They're as good of a duo as anybody. And if we weren't setting the back row so much, we'd be setting them more. The only thing that is probably the knock on them a little bit is maybe just not as many kills. Both of them are just under 2 kills per set. But our goal is to set, thirds of the court, whether it's in the front or the back row. And we're setting the middle third a lot, but we're setting the back row about as much as what we are the front row, and using that as kind of a crossing pattern in the middle third or an overload in the middle. But those two have been fantastic so far.
So your team now goes on the road in a very strong road environment, or a road environment that could test you in Penn State. Penn State as a team, they're 8-6 overall and 2-2 in the Big Ten. And speaking of, adjusting to new setters, that's something that they've had to do this season as well. What do you see when you look at Penn State? What's your early look on Penn State?
Well, they've got another aircraft carrier on their team as well. Martin's taking a ton of swings, and they've got some fierce competitors on the left. They've got their defensive specialists, their bros are really, really elite, and they've got some competitors out of the middle. And they're having to adjust on the fly, like a lot of teams in the Big Ten are having to adjust on the fly. And but it certainly starts with Martin, and the load that she has taken has been really impressive. She's certainly up there as well as a Player of the Year candidate, like she has been the past couple of years. And it's she's one of the truly elite opposites in our game, and it'll be an awesome challenge for us.
Okay, so that is Wisconsin versus Penn State. That is on Friday night on the Wisconsin Badgers Volleyball Radio Network when the Badgers take on Penn State. Then they'll take a day off and Sunday face Maryland. Once again, a game or a match you can hear on the Wisconsin Badgers Volleyball Radio Network. Friday, 5:30 pre-match show with first serve just after 6 p.m. Sunday, first serve just after 1 p.m. Let's take a break. When we come back, I've got some fan questions for you, Kelly, okay?
Let's do it.
All right, that's coming up next. This is the Kelly Sheffield Show, brought to you by North and South Seafood and Smokehouse on the Wisconsin Badgers Volleyball Radio Network. And welcome back. It's the Kelly Sheffield Show, brought to you by North and South Seafood and Smokehouse. I'm Jon Arias, joined by Wisconsin Volleyball coach Kelly Sheffield. It's time to take questions from you, the listeners, the fans. I put this post out on X asking for questions. Kelly, here are some of the ones that we can get to today. Jazzy is wondering, how does the depth of our bench compare to last year, and what has stood out to you about the ability to deal with big injuries this season, like you mentioned at the start of the show with Grace Lopez, Grace Egan, and now Charlie Feurbringer?
Yeah, it's really rare to get through a season where you're not, having people that have missed some time. You go into our season thinking that Grace Lopez, an All-American opposite, is going to be your starting opposite, and then she's out, and you bring in Grace Egan, and who's learning the position for the first time, is getting better, and then she's out, and then you're going, it almost feels like the Revolutionary War, where you got everybody just kind of lined up in a straight line in these rows. Somebody gets down, and the next man kind of up, but it's one thing I thought was cool. Miley came in at the end of sets yesterday, and in the end of the first set, and she's probably our best drop server on the team, and executes an excellent drop serve that gets their back row attacker on the ground. And so one of the things with Michigan is they don't like to make after somebody makes a hitting error, they don't like to go to that person. And if you can get a back row attacker moving forward, it's really tough to set that person. And so we thought there was some things that could switch over to our advantage if we could execute a serve in the right area. And so she was able to do that and take out some people. It doesn't come up with an ace. That's not what we're trying to do in that situation. But it takes out options and allows our blockers to make really good reads based off of that. That's what depth does to our team. That's why people adding skills, and even, because there's always going to be time that you're going to need what they bring in a situation, and in-game situation of her coming in there and executing in that moment was pretty big. It was 24-22, I think, at the time, or 23-22. So that was awesome.
Another question in from Corey. He asks, you and Gary talk in interviews about how fast the opposing offenses run. How does your tempo compare versus the Big Ten and other elite teams?
A decade ago, our tempo would be considered really fast because they're just high balls, not as high as, like, you think about a team like Texas. I mean, they were doing these moon balls back then. But we were kind of a medium tempo early on when I got here, and I would say that we're still kind of a medium tempo right now. Sometimes when you're going really, really fast, it limits your hitter's range. And so they're beating the block, but it becomes, if you've got elite blockers that read and can get their hands in good space, it really limits. We're wanting our hitters to be able to hit with range and be able to hit multiple shots. So I would consider it probably a medium speed. If our outsides were really limited, then we'd probably try to go faster. But you have a player like Mimi who can get up and over a lot of blocks and be able to get into some different areas of the court. we want her to be able to do that. And so but we're probably running a little bit faster to Una. Our right side attack is quicker than what it's been the past few years when we're going to Anna Smrek because their contact point isn't. But our speed and our stressor probably comes with us being able to go with our back row sets. So our speed is because of the number of attackers we've got coming at a defense, where it just feels faster because of that, rather than the flight of the ball to our antennas.
That makes a lot of sense. A follow-up from Corey. Do you change tempo for specific matchups or teams? And if Charlie's out for a bit, does that impact the tempo either direction?
Addie's flight of the ball is probably a little bit higher than Charlie's, but her contact point is higher. So actually, when the ball leaves her hand onto the hitter's hand, it's probably going to be about the same. Although the flight looks a little bit different, but because of her, how high she takes the ball, it's not only because of her how tall she is, but her arms are really extended a lot when that ball is leaving her hands, and so it probably won't feel much different for the opposing blocking team.
Another question with Addie. Kurt asks, and kind of answered this, but can she run the same offense as Charlie? Are there any limitations? And Horner seems to be providing a much stronger block, he writes. How much could that help?
I don't. She's bigger. Charlie does a really good job of getting her hands in good spaces, and I think Charlie's rarely in a bad space with her hands anymore. Not saying that Addie is. She's just seen more things. If it's kind of predictable, I would say, but. Teams aren't hitting real high against our setters, either one, which makes me kind of think, going back to Mimi, teams are hitting 039 against her. That is unbelievable for how low that is. But yeah, Addie's got the ability of being a pretty good blocker. I would say that's still a work in progress.
Okay. Well, back at it on the road for 2 in the Big Ten at 4-0, taking on Penn State on Friday at 6 and Maryland at 1 on Sunday. Both matches once again on the ESPN Wisconsin app and on the Wisconsin Badgers Volleyball Radio Network. Kelly, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, John. 2 tough environments coming up this weekend on the road. Really difficult places to play, and really excited to see how our team handles those.
All right. Thank you very much. This has been the Kelly Sheffield Show, brought to you by North and South Seafood and Smokehouse on the Wisconsin Badgers Volleyball Radio Network.